Hello, civic spokesman. Okay. How are you doing? And don't forget, let me know age, gender, where you're tuning in from. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me see if I have chosen the right microphone. Yes, it is. All right. So we should be all right. Dang G. Hello there, he says. Hello, Dang. 33 female Philippines. Ah, you speak Tagalog there, right? Beautiful Philippines. And Civic spokesman says 14 years old male India. Civics, I would like to ask you to make sure you have permission from your parents to be here. This is not designed for people who are under 18 years old. But if your parents are there and they know and you've told them and they've said okay to be here, then by all means. But I need that confirmation. Civic says, yes, sir. All right. Thank you for that. So we had a kind of a bit of a bigger crowd compared to what we usually get earlier on today at 1 p.m. Because on Saturdays we have two shows, two shows, two live streams. One is at 1 p.m. Vancouver time, and the other one around this time, 9 p.m. Vancouver. I was a bit late today. And so we usually, unfortunately, we are not visible on YouTube, so we don't really get people to know about our channel and or live stream. But we had like about maybe 20 some odd people. Funny thing is, I only see 20 people there, but when I finished, it was like 203 people had watched the program, or I don't know what that really means. It probably means they watched, or they didn't make a comment, or they came and gone. I have no idea. And Sohail says, sir, it is if this doesn't designed for age under 18, then why HOCD comes under 18 kids? What the rules of a certain medium is has nothing to do with the things malfunctions that happens to us. It's like saying if in this stadium everybody's playing soccer, why some people who are watching or want to play have, I don't know, their leg hurts. Has got nothing to do with anything. Because we by law we're supposed to make sure that our channel is not designed for under 13, and since 14 is close to it, so I would like you to have permission from your parents just to have done what's expected, to do the responsible thing, to inform you that this is what we require. You make a distinction in your channel if the content is for under 13 for kids or not. Since we declare it's not, then I follow it up and making sure that everybody who's here is older. At the same time, if they're younger, they have permission from their parents or their supervision is there, so at least that would be right. He says, no, sir, your videos are helpful for my HOCD. Okay, good. I'm delighted. I always recommend that you have your parents make an appointment with a psychotherapist or psychologists who is specialized in HOCD and OCD subsets. So you can directly ask your questions and, get enlightened, educated. And of course, these videos are here for, in based on my research and findings. And so I hope that they are helpful to many, and it looks like they are. So my question is, when people know about our live stream every Saturday, why is it only 5 people? I expect to be 5,000. I'm going to start a advertising campaign this week, and hopefully that will put us on the map a little bit. I've made a special video that I hope that it will be helpful for what I want to accomplish. Did you guys expect it to be at this time, or did you get a notification? Well, Dang, sometimes we get guests from Philippines, but the time zones are different. That's why it's not so easy for you guys to join us during the daytime, because when it's 1 o'clock here, it's probably 12, 5 in the morning there. Is it? Or 3 in the morning? 5 or 3 in the morning? Something like that. So right now it's 9:30 almost. Must be about 12 noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Is it? Am I right? Biswajyoti Osh says, "Hi, Miran. I'm 24, male from India. Says, I have one question. How to control repetitive thoughts?" It's a very good question. I think I've addressed it in one of the videos long time ago. I think it was called How to Stop Thoughts or something like that. But you see, pretty much every thought has a pictorial. So pretty much whatever you think, there's a picture, unless it's a reading material or mathematics or something. And every picture has a thought behind it. You see, when millions of years ago, or whenever it was, I don't know the time span on it, when the caveman or you know, the our forefathers then wanted to communicate, it was all through pictures. If you noticed, most of the things that they find in caves about thousands and thousands of years ago, a million years ago, it's in pictorial, in pictures. That's how they recognize things and communicate it. So by default, we have pictures of everything that now this sophisticated brain can think and has learned to think. 40,000 years ago, we were able to start thinking. So when it thinks, still by default, there's a pictorial of that thought. In other words, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't done the research, but I don't know if the thought shows up in picture, then it's translated into thought as a topic concept, or not. But as default, usually would be pictorial. And that's maybe pretty much why we are much more advanced in creating pictures. Imagination is in form of pictures. You don't invent things by thinking about the connection of material or pieces right off the bat. You picture something, how it could work, and then you modify it by pictures. You see it, and then you give thoughts and meanings to it, measurements and whatnot. So perhaps this is why, since it's been happening since God knows million years ago or how many years ago, there's more development in the brain in the form of creating pictorials. That's why it can invent things that don't exist. It can even create things that don't really exist in actual world. For example, there's a process in our abilities that is called neural ensemble. Neural ensemble is when different type of neurons, they're each responsible for a certain part of a pictorial that they don't have an actual existence in the real world. So it has to be created in the brain, by the brain, through the neurons. So there are bunch of different sets of neurons from different parts of the brain that they time it exactly at the same moment to create parts of that, what the brain is trying to create. For example, you are able, in creating something in picture when it really doesn't exist in the world. Such as, right now you can do it. You can imagine a lion with the head of a duck. There is no such thing in existence in the world, in actuality, but you can create it. And to create that, you need a very advanced abilities in the brain, developed talent of these neurons to be able to be so synchronized at the same moment, same time, to be able to create that, so you can see that animal with the head of a duck and body of a lion. Or you can see a car firing up into the space with rocket engines, but the hood of the car is actually an elephant, which is with its trunk as going. Is the rest of the body is the car and the rocket, and the head is the elephant with the trunk and all that. These things don't exist, but you can create all these things because of the thing that called neural ensemble. That's probably because we have so much experience. These neurons have so much experience in creating different pictorials since God knows when. Now they're more advanced. So when you think, it always, pretty much always has a pictorial behind the thought. So, having said all that, so when you have a repetitive thought, and when there is a pictorial of that thought present, which, as we mentioned, every thought has a picture behind it, comes with it. And when the screen is busy, screen of your head is already got one pictorial, one topic exposed in it, is presenting like a movie screen, is already got something on the screen, the picture of that thought being what's on the screen. Instead of trying to change the thought, come on, go. I think it's a moth. Instead of changing the thought to get rid of the thought, repetition thought, change the pictorial on the screen. Once you change the pictorial of the screen, the thought changes, because every pictorial has a thought. And since you have a thought which is repetitious, that thought has a pictorial, which is occupying the screen of your head. Now, instead of changing the thought, change the picture that is occupying the screen. The thought changes itself. And try it. For example, if you have some kind of, I don't know, obnoxious thought or something that is there, bring about, I don't know, a picture of a spaceship traveling with, two dogs and a cat from alien kind in it, and it's traveling. Bring that picture. Once you bring that picture, the other picture that belonged to that thought, which in fact is the thought, disappears. And if you practice that, that would be one technique that you can use, which, anyhow, that's my cook-up. I haven't seen it, heard it anywhere, but it works. So, and so, what other question? Jack Crostwaite. I'm gonna change my glasses. All right. Says, hi, Maran. Hello there. I do need the credentials, guys. Age, gender, where you're tuning in from. And BYOT Gosh, oh, we already discussed that. So that's it. Mm-hmm. Remember, let me know age, gender, where you guys tuning in from. So of all you guys here, we have 11 people, only one thumbs up. What do you guys? Is it so hard to bloody push that button? Come on, get on with it. Don't be lazy. Algorithm, and of course, it doesn't make that much difference. Only 10 people here. But if we were in thousands, YouTube algorithm recognize the likes, and on that basis, we get more exposure. So get off your butts and push that button. It's not that difficult. Or I get the ugly stick. And you should all be aware of the presence of Mr. Ugly Stick. And it's going to be coming down on your heads if you don't treat yourself well. And Jack says 18 male UK. Thank you for that. And we still have one like, by the way. BYOT says, so how we control this thought process, it's really disturb and hamper the life. Well, why do you want to control the thought process? It's like saying to me that, how do I control the bazaar? because there are things in it that I don't like. Well, it's a bazaar. You go in there, you pass by, you see in one store or booth or whatever, presentation, table, desk, whatever it is that is, uh, you know, displaying the products. You don't like it, you pass by. Why do you have to control the bazaar? Let everything be there. Don't bother yourself. You're not responsible for what's in the bazaar. You're only responsible for what you choose or select or buy from the bazaar, what you stand by, what you pass by. If it's obnoxious, if it's selling some kind of a, I don't know, undesirable product, or some, I don't know, fruit that you don't like, some food that you don't like, some product that you don't approve of, or some material that is toxic or whatever it is, don't stand beside it, because then you would not enjoy it, right? So you pass by, go to a booth or a part of the bazaar that is selling, I don't know, oranges, or selling some computers or things that you approve of. So don't have to control the bazaar. What comes in it, what goes on, I got to control it because there's things I don't like. No. So be it. It's not your responsibility. Same thing with the brain. It creates thoughts. You don't have to control thoughts. Thoughts can come and go. Why? Because you have a mechanism of consciousness that everything that happens in the world somehow finds its way into your consciousness through different mediums: television, publications, newspaper, discussions, internet. Somehow you become aware, the brain becomes aware of this particular product, design, topic, discussion, lifestyle, whatever it is. And that is stored as a knowledge of existence of it in somewhere in the world in your consciousness. So based on what's gotten in there, brain is a thought manufacturing machine, makes thoughts, doesn't know what it makes. It just makes thoughts with whatever material, whatever information is available. So you're not responsible for what brain makes. It can make any thoughts. It's got nothing to do with you, just like any product can get into the bazaar, has nothing to do with you. But you're responsible for which one of these thoughts you select to use them, or you allow the thought to become an actuality by your effort, because you're the only one, not brain. You're the only one in this entity that can allow something, thought, suggestion, image, to see the light of day or die and fall by the wayside as soon as it is created by the brain. To see and to become an actuality in real world or not. You live by your vetoes and choices, not by thoughts that the brain makes or doesn't, because you don't have to follow the brain. The brain has to follow you. Ultimate judge is you. It can make and suggest whatever it wants, but you're the one who allows it or not. That's why you don't have to control thoughts. Let it be. Free yourself. Don't have to have that responsibility. And thank you, HC. I don't know what to make of it, but thank you for your comment. I'm not ignoring you. It's just that I don't know what to say about it. Jack says, can't stay for long. It's 5:30 a.m. here. Oh, yes. Okay, for sure. In UK, yeah, it is. It's true. And we have Sherry Driver. Am I saying it right? It's female, Belfast. Okay, Sherry, yeah. That's a Irish name, is it? Am I right? Irish, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dublin, Belfast. And age, Sherry. And what a beautiful accent you guys have there. It's so wholesome. Helena says, hi, I'm Helena. Hello, Helena. 20 from Mexico says, can you talk about how fear can be so hard to overcome? Even though we know most of the time it's useless. Well, and I need a little bit more info, Helena, because when you say fear, I gotta know, what is the fear? The fear that some wild animal is about to attack you, you're facing with it, face to face with it? Or is it a truck about to hit you? What's the fear? Because most fears, other than these physical fears, is not really present in the now, in the moment. It's created when you compare what it was to what it is to what it could be. The neighbor used to think very good of me, but they saw me with a young girl, maybe 30 years old, which is much younger than me. And that was my guest. So we came home. So now I'm going to be thinking, this is an example, by the way, it's not about the actuality. So now I'm thinking, so the neighbor used to think good about me. Is the neighbor still thinking good about me now? Now that they have seen me have a guest 30 years younger than myself, in her 30s, and I'm like 65. So what would they be thinking about that now? It creates an anxiety or worry if you want to have a certain image or certain picture of yourself, that's how you want people to see you. And then you wonder, that's how it was before, that's what happened last week. Are they still thinking the same way as last week when they saw me with this younger girl, 30-year different age difference? Or maybe I brought a big plants to my home, I made lots of noise, so I wonder if they still like me as they did, or because I brought a big tree and I made little noise, now they don't like me anymore. So really, it's not about what's happening at that moment. It's about when you compare something that it was, what it is, what it could be, that creates anxiety and fear. I have just a video that I've uploaded just a few days ago. And let me put the link up here for you. Here it is. You can have this that would answer your question in more detail. That's the link for you. Sherry is 47. Okay, thank you for that, Sherry. And Civic Spokes says, Sir, I'm feeling guilty for thoughts. Like I'm only thinking about that and I feel more guilt. Why would you feel guilty about something that is not yours? It's like saying, I'm feeling guilty because that boy across the street uh, was speeding in the street that the speed limit was 50 and it was going about a lot more than that. It's independent. That person is not you. You're not responsible for what he's doing. Brain makes thought. It's not your responsibility to be feeling guilty about, oh, I'm feeling guilty about what the brain is doing. Brain is not you. You're not the brain. Brain is an independent system. It can think about whatever he wants to think about. What you choose to make it to become an actuality or act on it, then you can be responsible for. If a thought of going to somewhere and stealing something comes in, there's no guilt to it. It's a thought. That's why you're there. You're the filter. You're the boss. You're the supervisor. You're the controller. That you don't allow these things that are not in line with your values to take shape or become an actuality, take an action, or allowing them to become real. That's where your responsibility is, not when a thought is manufactured. That's not yours. It's an independent system. And Helena says, thank you. Says, I mean, fear of intrusive thoughts. Why do you have to be fearful of intrusive thoughts? Again, it's not your responsibility. And intrusive thoughts could come into my brain that I hate my mother, or I want to do something awful to my father, to my mother. I love my mother. I love my father. I would never harm them. So that's the end of that. It's no different than somebody in the street accuses me or says, go kill your father. I don't pay attention. Of course not. You ignore it. What does it have to do with me? I'm the one who refuses to do anything or take that suggestion to do anything with it. That's my responsibility. Not when suggestions show up, whether by somebody out in the street or by the brain that is mounted on my head. The brain is not me. I am not the brain. And what the brain does, I'm not responsible for. I'm only responsible to allow what the brain suggests that is not in line with my values to use this entity, physical entity of mine, and bring it to actuality and reality. That's my responsibility, because I'm the only one that can make this body to do things. Brain can suggest it, but if the intellect, if the awareness, if me in there does not allow it, brain can suggest until the cows come home. You can suggest me go kill someone, won't do it. Yeah, you can suggest me jump off the cliff, won't do it. You can suggest me hit my head to the wall, won't do it. You can suggest me to put poison in the food that I'm making, I won't do it. These are intrusive thoughts that, as long as I have the choice, selection, and the veto power and choices power, I don't care what brain suggests or what comes into the screen of my brain in the form of thoughts, suggestions, pictorials, image, whatever. Guys, there's 11 of us here. There's one like. Is that correct? How many likes do you guys see? Isn't that shameful? Should I bring the ugly stick? What's going on? Click on that thingy. So, whose question was that? Was it Sherry's? Helena's? Helena's. I hope that answers your question, Helena. Among these feelings can have all kinds of ups and downs, and due to the anxiety level, due to your worrisome, I suggest you need a little attention by explaining better make an appointment with a psychotherapist, psychologist who specializes in OCD and subsets of OCD, and ask them to help you understand, so you would have a support system that way with knowledge, and would help you to interpret these things that you're talking about, better than you can. All right. Two by show says, sir, is HOCD brain problem? It's a malfunction in the striatum, caudate nucleus being in the striatum. And then when it malfunctions, it's designed to automatically shut down intrusive thoughts. When it's malfunctioning, when the brain's signaling system malfunctions, caudate nucleus doesn't get that information and act on it as it's designed to. And therefore, with your behavior, you're supposed to help the brain to be rewired through neuroplasticity, through the way you behave with intrusive thoughts. And then eventually the brain learns that you're not interested in these thoughts, and rewires itself through your behavior toward these thoughts by ignoring them and focusing on what it is that you've set out to accomplish on that day. And then eventually it'll kick back in and starts working. And whenever it malfunctions, you know exactly what it is, so you don't freak out. Because brain, like any other electrical system, malfunctions. When it malfunctions, since we've all been fooled since childhood, thinking that the brain is me, that I'm the brain. Whatever brain says, that is me. That brain is me, actually. I'm supposed to follow the... No, that's not true. You're not the brain, and brain is not you at all. It's an independent system, and you get to veto what the brain suggests, and you get to select, things that comes to your mind, and you just get to ignore it as you wish. You're the awareness, you're the intellect. Brain is not the intellect. Brain just manufactures thoughts, as I explained before. Lenny Glucci says, this guy saved me a while back. Okay. I think you mean this guy means me. Okay. I'm delighted that the videos have been helpful to you. It says, thank you, sir. You're quite welcome, Lenny. And well, Aman, eventually you need to see a psychologist to help you. Otherwise, you interpret them in such a way that it's not scientific, and you may mislead yourself. So that's why I say it's important to, talk to your psychologist, psychotherapist who is specializing in OCD and OCD subsets such as HOCD, whatnot. Otherwise, regular psychologists may not even understand what it is, because their knowledge and expertise does not extend that way, and they could confuse you worse. Tuba, I have explained it in the videos that I have on the channel. There are two playlists, one called Intrusive Transient OCD, HOCD Negative Thoughts. It explains the interpretation of certain thoughts. And in video number 7, it shows the power of the brain and why it's so powerful and how its power can manipulate us. It shows the power of the brain. In video number 8, it shows why the intrusive thoughts appear. In fact, it gives you information about why intrusive thoughts pop up, show up. And video number 11 talks about what thought is, how it is put together, and the relationship between thoughts and consciousness. And these are informative videos. And then there are many other videos up to number 30, 31, 32, interpretation of the thoughts that show up in your head. Then there's another playlist called Intrusive OCD, HOCD short videos. And none of them are short, maybe one or two, but they are not talking about interpretation of thoughts. They're focusing on bringing to light the separation between brain, thoughts, and you. There is a you independent from brain. There is a brain independent from you. And there is thoughts that you use, the apparatus of the brain, to create a thought based on what you select from your consciousness and a certain purpose you have for that thought to help you to figure out something, understand something, learn something, calculate something, produce something, design something, something you want to advance your life through that configuration, using the apparatus of the brain to create a thought to help you with what you want to achieve. And then there is brain itself that uses the apparatus of itself and creates thoughts, about 80, 90,000 thoughts a day, which got nothing to do with you. And when you understand the separation of brain, you, and the kind of thoughts that is being manufactured, created with you or with the brain, then you understand a little bit better about how your psyche is put together, and you won't feel responsible for what shows up in your head, because that's not your thoughts. Yeah, your power is the ultimate power. You're the judge of what brain makes, not the follower of the brain. And you live not by the suggestions and thoughts and images that the brain produces. You live by your ability and power to veto and choices. Ignatius says, male 21 Chile, says, hi, Meran, how are you? Good to see you again. Thank you, Ignatius. And thank you for being here. Civic, that's brain's thought. Otherwise, it's not anything. You're perceiving that. You're projecting that. One of the problems with people who have OCD, such as many millions or myself, I had all kinds of OCDs through childhood and so on. Every kind of it you say, I had it. I dealt with it. But I never knew what it was. I just thought, oh, that's weird. So I dealt with it, not giving it any specific attention, by just dealing with it rather than finding it as if it has anything to do with anything. Just observing what it is. Like if I had to turn the switch off and on 50 times or 30 times, I'd find a way to deal with it, to do it or not do it, or check the door, or check the oven if it's on or not, or whatever intrusive thought would show up. I'd say, that's nasty. I wouldn't label it or give it a conclusion of any kind. I would just notice its weirdness to me, because some things are weird to you, some things are not weird to somebody. The same thing is not weird to somebody else. So for what it is that your values and your lifestyle and your the events or the experiences of OCD would be only observed. If you just observe it, well, then you deal with it. But if you interpret it and give it a label and give it a conclusion, and therefore drive from it a certain label on yourself, then you're entering into a rabbit hole that is unnecessary, instead of just witnessing something that is not in line with your values happening in the head, and recognizing that, well, that's not me, that's the brain. And then you just feel it's nasty, it's bothersome. And the fact that you're aware that it's bothersome, it tells you that's just not you. Because if it was you, you wouldn't have a problem with it. Because let's say it's something that you like, comes to your mind. You have no reaction to it. You have no objection to it. You have no awareness that there's something different than what you prefer. There's no contradiction created. There's an awareness when there's a contradiction. When there is no contradiction, there's no awareness. So when you're aware of something different is happening, that means there's a contradiction. Contradiction between what? Between what the brain says and what you are. That means there is a you, and it's contradicting with what the brain is suggesting. That's why there's an awareness that tells you, hey, there's a contradiction here, which means It's got nothing to do with you. But you go in there thinking because it comes from the brain, it must mean something. It must have a conclusion. No, it doesn't. And you have to look for it. Just see it coming in. It's nasty to you. It's uncomfortable. And just understand there's a malfunction until eventually you ignore it and ignore it. And the brain gets retrained that, oh, what I'm doing is not in line with this person's interest. Then it gets fixed up. And Jose Navarro has helped the channel with $2 super chat. And thank you for that. Jose says, does judgments of thoughts create the repetition? Give me an example. You mean because you're judging it, therefore you're entertaining it, therefore you're repeating it? No, you're simply making the judgment as what a quality control guy at the assembly line of a factory does. The factory is producing a certain kind of product. It's coming down from the assembly line. At the end of the assembly line, there's a quality control guy. Looks at it, says, well, this doesn't have the material that we designed. Some other material got in there. They've made the product with some plastic. It's supposed to be steel. Therefore, it's going to be rejected. So the judgment would be, is it useful or not? Is it meeting my standards, my values or not? If it doesn't, goes by the wayside. If it does, then you decide if it's useful or not. It's not about, keep thinking about it and going in detail or no harsh judgment, just what it is, useful or not, in line with my values or not. Am I seeing this number right? There's still only one thumbs up. Or is it just not showing here and you guys can see it better there? Evolved says, hello, male 21 from Oregon. Oh, Oregon. I went to school in Portland. Lewis and Clark. Where in Oregon are you? Evolved. He says, how come it's hard not to repeat oneself or engage in negative thoughts? How come it's hard not to repeat oneself? It's only hard for people with OCD. It's not hard for people who don't have OCD. And if you look at the roots of OCD, which I've explained in some of the videos, it's because you're seeking psychological security. You have insecurities and uncertainties in life, and we all want certainty. So we do certain kind of a funny, crazy things, thinking that if I do that, nothing happens to my dad. If I don't do that, there's a possibility, boy, because there's a certain glitch in the brain that suggests negativity and fearfulness, wants to make things assured and certain, so it creates and conjures up certain kind of a fictitious behavior in order to settle itself and convince itself that I've done what I could do in order to bring balance to that way of thinking. So I feel now everything's fine, nothing bad's going to happen to my dad or to my loved one, whatever. So if you simply start ignoring any fact to this hypothetical thinking, then you start reversing the OCD. Like, if you think that I got to touch this 10 times, this light switch, because if I do that, then everything is cool and I've figured out the, powers that could have anything to do with something bad happening to my loved ones. And I do that 10 times. So it's balanced. It's, kind of synchronized and it'll be all fine. Then you tell yourself, well, why don't I just do 5 times and see anything bad happens? I'm not going to do 10 times. So you do 5 times and you see nothing happen. Next time you say, okay, I'll do 3 times. So for a while, you do 3 times. Nothing happens. You're satisfied that 3 times is enough. Then you do once and you see still nothing happens. Then you just do when it's needed to turn it on or turn it off. You can reverse that. Logically, you can reverse it. And then you can trial and error, see really nothing happened. When you want to lock your door and you keep coming back and check, did I lock the door? Did I not lock the door? And you know that you did, but you just want to check again. So because you think you're not sure. So this time, do it with utmost patience and focus, attention. You take the key and look at it. Say, I'm taking the key out of my pocket. And look at the key. It's going into the hole of the keyhole. Now, I can remember. I just did that. You create story. You create memory while you're doing it. You pay attention to every part of it that you're doing. Now I'm turning it. Now my hand is here and I'm pulling the knob and I'm turning the lock. Now I've taken it out and remember the sound that it made. And you put it in your pocket. So when you're down close to the elevator or in the street and you say, did I lock it or not? You have all these memories that you paid attention to. Say, oh yeah, I did. Otherwise, if you have slightest doubt, you come back and check. Why? Because you're kind of laced with the responsibility OCD. Because you don't want to cause any trouble for anything. Being responsible for having left the door open. Somebody comes and steals something or something bad happens. Or you check the oven or God knows how many times just because you don't want anything catch fire and the neighbors or the building be affected by it, and you'd be responsible to have brought harm to your household or other people living in the building if you're living in an apartment. So all these are supposedly the motivation or justification for these sort of things. So you got to reverse these by carefully doing what you need to do before you leave home, and other things in the same way. Well, if you constantly do the same thing that has got no use for you, for example, you say that you keep, it says, how do you remove intrusive thoughts that you acknowledge are not useful or real? However, brain will bring it up. First thing you got to do, you got to understand that you don't need to prove or combat with the brain or explain to the brain, convince the brain to do or not to do something. If it's done repetitiously or unnecessarily, you just ignore it. You don't have to debate with the brain as if the brain has any authority in your entity. You see the brain is malfunctioning, doing something, bringing intrusive thoughts, ignore it because you know it's not useful to you. Waste of your time, lots of negative energy, and you don't want to deal with it. Just ignore it. Nothing happens. But you think if you don't deal with it, something bad could happen. It could be true. Now you have to prove it's not true. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, including your brain. So let it do what it does and ignore it. The more you pay attention to it, try to prove it or diffuse it or refute it or whatnot, the more you're spending time with it. And the more you spend time with it, you're creating neuroplasticity. You become really good at focusing on these things, which promotes it to be lingering in its creation and presentation and popping up again and again and again. But if they show up and you just notice it, call it for what it is. That's HOCD, or that's OCD, or that's negative thought. That's intrusive thought. It's not me. That's intrusive thought. It's not me. Or that's OCD. It's not me. Or that's the brain. It's not me. You notice it, call it for what it is, and then you focus on what it is that you want to do, you select to do, you think you should be doing. So this will not spend time on it. It kind of dismisses it and gets on with what it is that you're supposed to accomplish. That creates a different kind of neuroplasticity. It creates a rewiring on the brain that we don't want to become good at doing this thing. So it's a reverse neuroplasticity that you keep not paying attention to it, so you will not become good at paying attention to it. Endilugani says, Salam Mehran, Salam Endilugani. Says 24 male London. How do I prevent thoughts of my ex popping into my head from time to time? The moving on process has been good so far. You don't want to prevent it. It's like saying, how can I prevent the wind from blowing? Oh, I can't prevent it. But when it blows, I take shelter. When it blows, I put my hoodie on. When it blows, I go to a store. So when such a thought comes in, you redirect it. You focus on something else rather than focusing or thinking you're obligated to focus on a certain thought about your ex that showed up. So thought can show up. Allow thoughts to be there. Any kind, about the ex, intrusive thoughts, whatever it may be. Don't try to control or stop or refuse thoughts or control thoughts. Let them be. Allow them to be. They're permitted to be, because you have the ultimate power. Veto it or select it. That's your choice. It doesn't matter what shows up. You ignore it. It's like, it doesn't matter how many different people are in a certain group or a party. You decide to interact, socialize with some of them or not some of them, this one or not this one. It doesn't matter how many people show up. You are the only one who decides, should I interact or not? But they're allowed to be there. Thoughts are like that. They're allowed to be there. Allow thoughts to be any kind. I don't care what. Dangerous thoughts, all kind of weird thoughts, sexual thoughts, whatever thoughts it may be. But you don't have to. It's like going to, again, a Louvre museum in Paris. There's so many paintings there. You don't have to look at all of them. You just look at these, and naturally those that you're not interested in that section won't be in front of your eyes because you're paying attention to these and you're enjoying yourself. And when you're going by in the section that you like, you see a painting that you're not interested in or has found its way there, which is not supposed to be, or you just don't like it, well, look away. You don't make a fuss. Oh, security, there's a painting there. I feel uncomfortable. What? Paintings are allowed to be there. Free expression. Brain is expressing itself by being so stupid, not knowing what it's expressing, but it just puts out thoughts. You can't be running around trying to control every human being that is doing something wrong out there. Just avoid things that are being done wrong somewhere. You change your path. There is an accident, you change it. There is a fight, you change. There is some robbery, you change it. That's what you don't try to control the world. Brain creates thoughts. Thoughts, you should allow them to be there. They don't bother you. They're bothersome, but by letting them be there, not interacting with them, you're retraining the brain that I'm not interested in these kind of things. And it will learn. Like a person that you don't pay attention to keeps talking to you, you don't pay attention, eventually shuts off, says, okay, this person is not interested to communicate with me. That's how you deal with it. Not to go and get the policeman to come and arrest them because you don't want him to talk to you. You just move away, turn your path away and go about your business and ignore them, avoid them. Same thing. Thought of your ex-girlfriend shows up, so focus on something else that you enjoy. You don't try to prevent it. Who can prevent thoughts? It's not yours to prevent it. If it was up to you, say, I don't want these thoughts to show up, and that's the end of it. But they show up, do they? Is it you that wanted them to show up? No. So it's an independent system. So if it's an independent system, you're not responsible to when they show up, and you're not responsible to avoid them or prevent them or do anything with it. You just roll by your power to veto or selection, veto or choices, and do what it is that you want to do, not pay attention to what other people do, including what other thoughts your brain makes. Yeah, that's what you should not believe, because brain is not an intellect. So if you say, if you don't argue with it, it tells something bad might happen. Bullshit. Brain has no such power to make something bad or good happen. If it was the case, if it can have the power to make something bad happen if you don't touch the light switch 50 million times, then it should have the power. If you imagine or want to have $1 million in the bank, it should have it. It doesn't have it, does it? Why is it that the brain only has the power to make bad things happen? We only think that way, yeah? Because that is where we are concerned about psychological security. We want certainty. And that is why one of the roots of OCD is that we want to create certainty in the world, that nothing about it is certain. So leave that up and you'll be free. And don't fall for the bullshit. That's how the medicine men in the old times would, jumbo, mumbo, and voodoo, and then they would get you to believe in something. And once it goes in there, you believe it, and you don't need any evidence or reasons for it. You just believe it. And they get you to do all kind of weird things, because if you don't, we will do this or what? And the brain is now doing the same thing. When it goes malfunctioning, it makes you do crazy things, because makes you to be afraid if you don't, something bad will happen. But really, you don't have to believe in it, and it will be fine, because none of that is true. I lived with OCD all my life, and I eventually, by constantly getting at it, analyzing it, finding logics for it, eventually I was able to free myself from it. It's all about logics. And it all comes from insecurities and psychological security that we all need, and we never be able to accomplish that psychological security. It's unattainable. That's another story, another discussion for another time. Evo says, I'm from Sherwood, Oregon. Aha. What I mean by repeating myself is basically I talk to myself. And when a thought comes up that makes me uncomfortable or feels real, I end up arguing with myself. Don't. Luckily, you argue in private. Otherwise, people are going to say, oh, this guy's crazy. Yeah, I've been there. But because this is what human being wants to do. Goes into the memory and wants to fix something that's already happened in the past, but he wasn't satisfied with the way he handled it. So he goes in the memory and rethinks it and tries to modify it and fix it. That's why. And then because it doesn't really get fixed, next time when he's thinking about it, again, it goes in there, tries to do the same modification that it did the time before, previously. And then again, next time when it remembers it, again, does have to do the modification, because none of it is real. Because it's not real, the problem is not real, because it was in the past and it doesn't exist and it's a memory. You can't modify anything. So when you finish modifying it, you feel good, but that's a compulsion. But in reality, nothing has been modified. So next time when it comes to your mind again, you want to modify it again because it's still in the original shape. So might as well don't, because memory is dead. Now, if a thought pops up in your head and you try to convince the brain, that's the problem starts. Don't pay attention to the brain, because brain is not alive. Wants to pretend that it is alive. Wants to replace you. Wants to take over and make you think that the brain is actuality and you're supposed to believe what the brain says. That is the false understanding of the role of brain for you. The brain works for you. So if it suggests something and you don't think it's right, you disagree with it, you don't argue with it. Just simply let it be, because you're aware that this is an apparatus. It has no life. It's a material process, all neurons. It's like computer comes up with things, but you're not supposed to believe what it says because you didn't ask for it. There is no such thing. It's hypothesizes it. And that's what the brain does. But because you're aware of everything that it's trying to spit out and you become concerned about its mistakes or its wrong paths, you try to correct it. Don't. It's a virtual world in there. Nothing needs to be corrected. You just veto it or select it. That's it. You don't need to convince it, shut it off, stop it from manufacturing it. You just don't act on it. That's it. You don't want to convince it. These are not the joys you're looking for. So if you don't interchange energy with it, you don't give it a time of day, then you won't start believing that the brain has a life and you have to argue with it. When you argue with it, you actually give it an understanding, in your own understanding, that it has an intelligence. It doesn't. Brain is as dumb as it comes. It has no intellect. There are aspects of you and there are aspects of the mind that the brain cannot reach. And for that, you need to watch the video I've produced that discusses Dr. Leibetz's experiment in the lab that shows you that brain is not even involved when you veto something. When you're trying to make a simple decision, half a second before you make that decision, there's electromagnetic activity in the brain. Shows that brain is aware of certain kind of a activity that is about to happen, a decision to be made. But when you reverse that decision after it was made, brain has no activity. Brain is not involved in your veto powers. So in other words, there are certain pay level that brain is not there. Like you're above it. Your intellect, your selection power is at a level that the brain cannot reach. Brain is not present when you veto something. That tells you that you're above the brain. Brain cannot reach you. So therefore, you don't want to consider brain by discussing things with it. Give it an echelon of existence, of intellect that is worthy of you consulting or debating with it. Can somebody please respond to me as far as why is it there's only one thumbs up? Is it correct number? There's only one thumbs up? Nobody has put a thumbs up? Or is it just the way it shows in here? Can you guys look at your screen, see how many thumbs up you see? Ignatius, yeah, that's right. You know, you don't call the police in the Louvre Museum. Oh, that painting is here. It bothers me. They said, you bother us. Get out of here. Ignatius says, I'm interested about the topic of desire. How do you stop thinking obsessively and forget about something you used to want? Like materialistic thing, for example. I need some control of myself. Well, and Ignatius says, I saw a video where you talked about reducing the impact of the images you made about things. And, well, you know, Ignatius, if you watch my video that says desire and how to stop it, it will explain to you in detail about what you're looking for. But I'm going to touch on it right now just so that you get to know a little bit because you asked a question. So desire and how to stop it. I'm giving you the short version, but there's a long version. There's a 10-minute one. This is a 3-minute and 39-second one. So there's a link for it. You see, desire has certain stages, whether it's for a girlfriend, a relationship, or for a product, a car, let's say. The sequence of creation of the desire being born, is as follows. You're in an auto show. You're looking at different autos here and there. From the distance, you see a red car over there, about maybe 50 meters away. Your eyes make contact with that red car. You like it. Hmm? It attracts your interest, attracts your attention. So you walk towards the car. Now you go close to the car. Now you put the hood on. Now you see the engine, the smell of the engine. Now the other sensor is coming to the picture. You touch the car, you smell it. You open the driver's side door. The smell of the new car comes in. You sit behind the wheel. Now all the sensories beyond the eyesight is coming to picture. The smell, touch, huh? And then you sit behind the wheel, still in the showroom. And then you put your hands on the wheel. And now you imagine how it looks when you drive this car. The windows are open, your girlfriend's hair is flowing in the wind, or how your friends look at you, what their reaction would be when they see you drive this car. You're imagining all that. As soon as you make these images, allow these images to form, that's when you desire the car and you want to go buy it. So where you want to stop the desire is stopping where the image of the benefits, imagining you seeing yourself using that, stopping from those images to be produced, desire is not. The separation between all these sensors coming to the picture and where the actual images of you benefiting from it, that you're driving, how it feels, and all those emotions, if you don't let that part to be created, desire would not be created. I explained it a little bit more detail in that 3 minutes whatnot, and you can watch that. Perhaps that will help out. Aman says, sorry for asking for reassurance, but my whole life I had attraction towards females. Does it ever can finish or go away, or will I get my attraction like before again? Yes, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just being covered and clouded with the statics. It's like saying, I used to listen to this beautiful music. I was relaxing, having my tea, and the music was playing. It was great. But suddenly, I can't hear it anymore. I can't enjoy it anymore. I wonder if I could hear it clearly again. Would the music come back? Well, the music hasn't gone anywhere, but the window is open. So much car noise, honking of the car, engines of the car, revving of the car, and all the construction people who are doing some things around in the area. All that noise and static is not letting you enjoy like you did half an hour ago. Otherwise, the music hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there, but the static is covering your ability to focus on it, because there's so much shit going on. So when all these intrusive thoughts are in there, obviously your interest towards girl haven't gone anywhere. But all these intrusive thoughts and so on, it doesn't let you have that mode and mood and focus and balance that would cause that interest to show itself. Again, I use this analogy that a guy from Ireland has a channel on OCD and HOCD and whatnot. His name is Jesse. And he made this analogy, which I've used it many times, and it's a brilliant analogy. It says, like, imagine yourself, questioning yourself, why don't I get a hard on? But then you notice you're in a pond and frantically swimming, fleeing away from it. Alligator is just coming after you and is jaws open, about to chop your ass off, and yet you right at that moment you're thinking about, why don't I get the hard on? Why don't I get the erection? Well, gee, you're running for your life with an alligator on your tail. That's no way of expecting anything to be, function as it supposed to when the atmosphere and environment is ready for it. Same thing with you. You've got all these intrusive thoughts and nonsense showing up, and then you're wondering, why don't I have my attraction as before to the female? Well, so much static and bullshit, and you're running for your life trying to figure out what the hell is going on instead of focusing on the malfunction of the signaling system of the brain. You're constantly thinking there must be something. And you, instead of focusing on the separation between brain and you and thoughts, and brain is not you, you're not the brain, it's brain's malfunction. You, instead of focusing on that, you're focusing on, what does it mean? It means something. Maybe I'm changing. Well, when you're going through all these statics, you cannot really be yourself and focusing on the things that you always liked and enjoyed and focused. So those feelings are still there, but they're being distracted, being, statics won't let you, have them shine. Yeah. All right. Slobodon says, I will convince myself how long I think about it. What? You're right, Slobodon. All right. Okay. Ignatius says, thanks, Maran. I didn't know the 10-minute version. I'm going to see it. Well, let me see if I can find it for you. Could someone finally, bloody hell, show me or tell me about these one thumbs up? Is there only one thumbs up? Are you guys seeing it on your screen as well? Can someone... I'm not going to answer any questions now if you don't answer my question, for heaven's sake. Damn. Get on with it, guys. All right. There is a 10-minute one. Ignatius, this is a 10-minute one link, but I just put it down there. Nova says, I see 16. Helena says, I only see 1. Oh, that's cool. I'll take the 16. Let's see. Nova, where were you from? UK, was it? Helena, what about you? Where'd you say you were from? It would be good if you guys put it on every response you put. So I kind of would like to know how far, where am I talking to, kind of in my imagination. That would be cool. Like in the Lugani, I know it's UK, so I know I'm talking to UK. It's kind of fun. Okay. Nova, 21, male, Florida, USA. Ah, thank you for that. Ah, Helena, Mexico. Yes. Mexico. Wonderful. Warm people. Yeah, Aman. I kind of have heard of it. You're going to be an expert in that field once you get it all sorted out. Research on it. Not from people, from scientific sources. Well, okay, guys. We've been here 1 hour and 20 minutes and 38 seconds, 39, 40, 41, and continuing. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I guess we can end the evening. Hopefully, you guys will remember to promote the channel any which way you can do it in your Instagrams, share something there. In your, I don't know, maybe find something on my Instagram, Mind Seeks, and share it on yours, or make something for it, or talk on chat lines, or share the videos on your social media. Do something, for heaven's sake. We're dying. Nobody sees it. Look, 13 people here. It's supposed to be maybe 1,300. No? I mean, we have contents. Yeah, evolve. That's OCD. Because French call it doubting disease. So even though you know you're right, by not wanting to argue with it and not pay attention to it, and knowing that it's just an idiot brain is, but do you think, oh, I'm anxious about it, maybe I should do it? Because you've been doing it for so long. Every time that there's an obsession, you do a compulsion by arguing it, convincing it, going back and forth. So you guys say what you want to say, you get that out of your system. That's the compulsion part. And then because you do that, you feel good. And when you feel good, there's dopamine secreted. So now, after a while, you having done this, you're no longer doing the compulsion because of the obsession. It's not just for that. You're doing it to get the dopamine, because every time you do the compulsion, you feel good, because once you do the compulsion, dopamine is secreted. You feel good, dopamine is secreted. And then after a long time doing that, you're no longer doing it for compulsion, the obsession. You're no longer doing it to get the dopamine. It becomes your habit. Once it becomes your habit, it becomes more difficult to get rid of it, because you think, oh, something is wrong, I got to do it. What? Because you've created, through neuroplasticity, by keep doing it, you created a habit that this is what you want to be good at, by paying attention to it, arguing about it, and dealing with it, and convincing the brain, and winning over it, and as if as an entity. This bullshit is part of you. Brain is like your intestine, like your kidney, your liver. You don't try to convince it of anything. You just see if it's ill, you don't pay attention. You do things that to make it good, repair it. And in the case of brain, is by ignoring it. In the case of kidney, maybe it's some kind of a supplement, or liver, something else. If you have a diarrhea and your intestine is malfunctioning, you, I don't know, have yogurt and rice or something, you fix it up until it repairs. You don't say, oh, diarrhea must be my natural state of being. Why? Because my intestine is doing it. And you don't try to argue with it that, oh, diarrhea, I'm not diarrhea, why are you here? You don't do any of that. It's clear to you that it's malfunctioning. But when it comes to brain, unlike any other organs that you're clear when they're not functioning as they always did, and you say, oh, there's something wrong with this, so I don't pay attention, I'll go to the doctor, I get it fixed. But when the brain says, so, oh, maybe the malfunction is my normalcy. What the fuck is wrong with you? Okay. It's too late. I want to go for a walk now. Have my tea. You guys sucking the energy out of me, for heaven's sake. At least if I had 14,000 people, I'd say I'm doing something. 14 people, what's wrong with you guys? Show up, for heaven's sake. All right, guys, it's time. Ignatius says, thank you for the link. You're quite welcome. All right, guys, I love you all. Thank you very much for being here, giving me the opportunity to share a thing or two with you. I look forward to talk to you again next week at 1 p.m. Vancouver time, or 9 p.m. Vancouver time. And remember, if you want to talk to me on other issues, or issues that concerning you, don't want to talk about it here, and you want to have a specific attention on it, please go on my site, mindthatseekstruth.com, mindthatseekstruth.com, and make an appointment for a Skype consultation. And then if you're a new client, for 1 hour that you make a reservation for the booking for the appointment, I'll add another hour, and we'll have 2 hours on that session to explore what's concerning you one-on-one on Skype. In other words, I'm one Skype call away. So, in the meantime, be good to yourself and to the others. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.